What if I told you that a single phone call changed everything for me? It was my own mother who, at the age of 72, called me from a clinic waiting room and said, "I'm about to get this vaccine. What do you think?" She wanted to consult me first. When she told me which vaccine it was, my immediate response was, "Mom, get up, grab your purse, and leave right now. Do not let them give you that vaccine." She was confused and said, "But the nurse said it was recommended." I replied, "Recommended doesn't always mean it's the right choice for you." That moment hit me hard because I realized something important. If my own mother, the mother of a doctor, was about to receive a vaccine that could seriously jeopardize her health at her age, how many other parents and grandparents are currently sitting in those same waiting rooms, rolling up their sleeves and trusting completely without asking a single question? Before you close this video or assume where this conversation is headed, I want to make something very clear about who I am and what my stance is. I am a medical professional, and I am not against vaccines. I want that to be perfectly understood. I have dedicated my career to medicine. I have administered vaccines. I believe in the power of immunization. Vaccines have saved millions of lives throughout human history and continue to do so. But I also believe something else. Not all vaccines are suitable for everyone at every age. Once you surpass the age of 60, the body starts to play by different rules. Your immune system is no longer the same as when you were 30 or even 50. Your organs process things differently. Your risk profile has changed, and some vaccines that are perfectly safe for a young person can become truly problematic for someone in their 60s, 70s, or 80s. This is not alarmism. This is simply medicine. This is science. This is paying attention. Today, I'm going to explain 5 specific vaccines that, as a physician and a son, I would never allow my own parents to receive after the age of 60. And I want you to stay with me until the end of this video because some of these will surprise you. Some are vaccines that are routinely offered to older adults in clinics and pharmacies. By the end of this video, you will understand why I hold such a firm stance regarding each of them and what alternatives might serve your parents or grandparents much better. And please, if you find value in this information, subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who has older parents. Share it with your mother. Share it with your father. This information could truly make a difference in someone's life. Let's start with the first vaccine, and this is precisely the one my mother almost received. The first vaccine I would never allow my parents to receive after age 60 is the live attenuated flu vaccine. You may know it by its trade name, Flu Mist. It's the nasal spray version of the flu vaccine. Here's the detail. Many people like it because there's no needle involved. You just spray it in the nose, and voila. It sounds easy, it sounds painless, it sounds perfect. But what most people don't know is that flu mist contains a live virus. It is weakened, yes, it is attenuated, but it is still a live virus. For a young, healthy person with a strong immune system, that weakened virus typically does not present any problem. The body recognizes it, learns from it, produces antibodies, and moves on. But in a person over 60, the situation changes. In fact, the European Medicines Agency already sets clear limits for the use of this type of vaccine at certain ages. Yet, I have seen cases where it's offered to older adults. I have heard stories of patients who received it without anyone asking their age or without proper evaluation. In an older person, a live virus, even weakened, can behave unpredictably. The immune system at that stage is already declining. There's a process called immunosenescence, which means the body's defense system becomes slower, weaker, and less precise. Introducing a live pathogen into that environment is like sending a weakened opponent into a boxing ring against a fighter who can barely keep their gloves up. It's not a fair fight, and the outcome can quickly go sideways. I have seen older patients develop prolonged flu-like symptoms after receiving the nasal vaccine. I have seen respiratory complications, and all of this was completely avoidable because there are excellent inactivated flu vaccines designed specifically for older adults. There's the high-dose flu vaccine. There's the adjuvant flu vaccine. These formulations are designed to give the aging immune system the extra boost it needs without the risk of introducing a live virus. That's why if your father or mother is over 60 and someone offers them the nasal flu vaccine, the answer should be no. Ask for the high-dose version or the adjuvant version. That's exactly what I would do for my own parents and what I would recommend for yours. Now let's talk about the second vaccine, and this one might raise some eyebrows. The second vaccine I would never allow my parents to receive after age 60 is the old shingles vaccine called Zostavax. If you're watching this video and your father or mother received the shingles vaccine before 2020, there's a possibility they received Zostavax. Here's the problem. Zostavax was also a live vaccine. It contained a weakened live form of the varicella zoster virus, which is the same virus that causes chickenpox and can later reactivate as shingles. For years, it was the only vaccine available against this disease, so doctors used it because it was better than nothing. But there were significant issues with Zostavax. Firstly, its efficacy dramatically decreased in individuals over 70. Studies showed that its effectiveness in people over 80 was approximately 18%. An 18% efficacy practically offers no real protection. And since it was a live vaccine, it carried the same risks I mentioned earlier with the nasal flu vaccine. In people with weakened immune systems, many older adults have diseases or take medications that reduce immunity. A live vaccine can potentially cause the very disease it is supposed to prevent. There have been documented cases of individuals developing shingles-like rashes and complications after receiving Zostavax. Now, here's some good news. Zostavax has been withdrawn in many countries and replaced by Shingrix, a recombinant vaccine that does not contain live viruses and is much more effective. Shingrix has over 90% efficacy in preventing shingles and is the preferred choice for older adults. So, if your parents have received Zostavax, it may be time to discuss the need for the Shingrix vaccine instead. Remember, being informed is the best way to advocate for your health and the health of your loved ones. In the next segments, I will continue to share more vaccines that I would advise against for older adults, and I encourage you to stick with me. Together, we can ensure that your family receives the safest and most effective vaccines available. Thank you for being here, and let's continue this important conversation. When discussing vaccinations, especially for older adults, it's essential to approach the topic with both care and thorough understanding. One of the vaccines I would strongly advise against for individuals over the age of 60 is the yellow fever vaccine. Now, I know some of you might be wondering why this would even come up if your parents are not planning a trip to the Amazon rainforest or similar exotic locations. It's a valid point, but as travel patterns shift, more and more older adults are venturing abroad. Retirement travel is on the rise, with many individuals exploring destinations in South America, Sub-Saharan Africa, or Southeast Asia. Certain countries in these regions have stringent entry requirements regarding vaccination against yellow fever, which necessitates a serious discussion if your loved ones are considering traveling there. If, for instance, your 70-year-old father decides he wants to take that dream trip to Brazil or Kenya, he might find himself in a travel clinic being told he needs the yellow fever vaccine. This is where my concerns begin to surface. While the yellow fever vaccine is notably effective, it's also a live vaccine, which carries one of the highest risk profiles among vaccines available for older adults. The health authorities have recognized that individuals over 60 years old have a significantly increased risk of experiencing severe adverse effects after receiving the yellow fever vaccine. There's a specific condition known as viscerotropic disease associated with this vaccine. Essentially, this means the weakened virus in the vaccine can overwhelm the body and cause a systemic infection that mimics actual yellow fever. This can affect vital organs such as the liver, kidneys, and cardiovascular system, resulting in a high mortality rate. Approximately 60% of those who develop this condition do not survive. I want to emphasize that this occurrence is rare. It doesn't happen to everyone who receives the vaccine. However, the risk escalates with age, particularly for individuals who may have pre-existing health conditions, which is often the case for those over 60. So, what would I recommend? If your parents genuinely need to travel to a yellow fever endemic area, it's crucial to have a detailed conversation with their healthcare provider about whether the risk associated with a vaccine outweighs the potential risk of contracting the disease itself. In some situations, a medical exemption might be possible, or perhaps the trip itself should be reconsidered. Personally, I would prefer my father to forego a vacation rather than receive a vaccine that has a documented age-related risk of causing a potentially fatal reaction. This is my perspective as both a physician and a son. Next on my list is another vaccine that warrants careful consideration: the oral typhoid vaccine, also known by its commercial name, Vivatif. This vaccine often arises in discussions about travel medicine. If your parents are planning to visit parts of South Asia, Africa, Central America, or South America, where typhoid fever is prevalent, they may be offered this vaccine. There are two types available: the injectable version, which uses an inactivated form of the bacteria, and the oral version, Vivatif, which contains a live attenuated strain of Salmonella typhi. At this point, you might be noticing a pattern in the vaccines I'm discussing. The common thread is the use of live vaccines in older adults. I can't stress enough how crucial this point is. A live vaccine in someone over 60, whose immune system is naturally declining, and who may be on immunosuppressive medications for conditions like rheumatoid arthritis or inflammatory bowel disease, poses a significant risk. The oral typhoid vaccine can lead to gastrointestinal symptoms that are often more intense in older adults. Furthermore, it can interact with antibiotics and other medications that many seniors frequently take. Additionally, the efficacy of this vaccine in older populations has not been studied with the depth we would prefer. While the injectable typhoid vaccine, although not perfect, does not carry the same risks associated with a living microorganism, it is a safer option. Therefore, if your parents require protection against typhoid fever for their travels, I strongly recommend opting for the injection instead of the capsules. This simple change can significantly impact their safety and health. I also suggest having a broader conversation with a travel medicine specialist regarding all recommended vaccines and assessing whether each is genuinely appropriate for your parents' age and health status. It's essential to avoid a one-size-fits-all approach. Your parents deserve personalized medical attention, especially when it comes to introducing something new into their bodies. Now, let's move on to the fifth and final vaccine on my list, which requires careful handling due to its complex nature, the BCG vaccine. BCG, which stands for Bacillus calmette-guerin, is primarily used against tuberculosis. In many Western countries, including Spain, it is not part of the routine vaccination schedule. However, in various parts of the world, it is administered at birth or during childhood. There are scenarios where an older adult might be considered for the BCG vaccine, such as if they are going to live for an extended period in a country with a high burden of tuberculosis, or in very specific cases, like treatment for bladder cancer or certain research studies regarding the aging immune system. My concern here, however, is significant. The BCG vaccine is live, using a weakened strain of Mycobacterium bovis. In older adults, particularly those with some degree of immunosuppression, the BCG vaccine can lead to severe complications. There have been documented cases of disseminated BCG infection where the vaccine bacteria spread throughout the body. This is rare in healthy young individuals but becomes a real concern in older adults. Given these considerations, it's vital to evaluate the necessity of the BCG vaccine carefully. The potential severe complications that could arise from receiving this vaccine in older adults cannot be overlooked, especially when the risks associated with age and underlying health issues are factored in. In summary, when it comes to vaccinations in older adults, we must navigate these decisions with a comprehensive understanding of both the benefits and the risks involved. Always consult with healthcare professionals to ensure that the decisions made are in the best interest of your loved one's health and safety. Today, I want to discuss a crucial topic regarding vaccinations, particularly for older adults and individuals with weakened immune systems. It's essential to understand that the symptoms of certain infections can be quite severe, including persistent fever, weight loss, and infections that can affect multiple systems in the body. Treating such infections can take months and often involves taking medications that are designed to combat tuberculosis. However, these medications can lead to significant side effects, particularly affecting the kidneys and liver in older individuals. Therefore, in almost every scenario I can imagine, I would advise my parents to avoid receiving the BCG vaccine after the age of 60. If you're concerned about protecting against tuberculosis, there are alternative strategies available. For instance, there are preventive medications and measures to reduce exposure. It is entirely possible to manage the risk without introducing a live bacterium into an aging body. Now, let me take a step back and explain why this topic is personally significant to me and why it should matter to you as well. We live in a time where there is a lot of noise surrounding vaccines. On one extreme, people claim that all vaccines are dangerous and that no one should receive any. On the other end, There are those who argue that all vaccines are completely safe for everyone, and that you should never question your doctor. I want to be clear, both of these positions are wrong. The truth, as is often the case, lies somewhere in between. Vaccines are one of the most significant achievements of modern medicine, without a doubt. However, like any medical intervention, they must be administered with caution, nuance, and a clear understanding of the individual patient. When that patient is over 60, the calculus changes. Everything I explain today is based on a fundamental principle. As we age, our immune system changes, and our medical care must adapt accordingly. What works for a 30-year-old does not necessarily work for a 70-year-old, and we have a responsibility to advocate for our parents and grandparents, to ask questions on their behalf, and to ensure they receive the most appropriate care for their specific situation. I also want to address something that I know some of you may be feeling right now. Perhaps some feel guilty because your father or mother has already received one of these vaccines. Please do not feel guilty. Medicine is continuously evolving. What we knew 10 years ago is not the same as what we understand today. The fact that you are watching this video right now means that you care, that you are trying to inform yourself, and that you want to do the right thing for the people you love. That is all any of us can do. We make the best decisions possible with the information we have at that moment. From now on, you possess knowledge that can help you have more informed conversations with your parents' doctors. There is one more thing I want to emphasize. I am not saying that you should reject all vaccines for your parents or distrust their doctors. What I am saying is that you should actively participate in their medical care. Accompany them to their appointments if you can. Ask questions. If a vaccine is recommended, inquire about the specific product being used. Ask whether it is a live or inactivated vaccine. Inquire about the specific risks for someone of their age. Ask whether there are alternatives. These are not disrespectful questions. They are not difficult questions. They are exactly the type of questions that good doctors appreciate because they demonstrate that you are involved and genuinely care about making the right decision. Let me tell you something based on my experience. Doctors or nurses who get annoyed when you ask questions are not the people you want making decisions about your parents' health. A good doctor will take the time to explain why they are recommending what they are. They will outline the risks and benefits. They will respect your right to be informed. If that does not happen, it may be time to seek another professional. I also want to take a moment to talk about the vaccines I enthusiastically recommend for those over 60 because I do not want to leave the impression that older adults should avoid vaccines altogether. Far from it. The high-dose or adjuvant flu vaccine each year is critical for older adults. The flu causes the deaths of tens of thousands of older individuals each year, and the right vaccine can save lives. Shingrix, the recombinant vaccine against herpes zoster, is excellent, and I recommend that all adults over 50 receive it. Pneumococcal vaccines that protect against pneumonia and related infections are extremely important for older adults. Updated COVID vaccines continue to be recommended for older adults and high-risk groups. The TDAP or TD booster, which protects against tetanus, diphtheria, and whooping cough, remains important throughout life. These vaccines are safe, effective, and designed or approved specifically for older adults. They utilize inactivated or recombinant technologies. They have robust safety data in older populations and protect against diseases that disproportionately affect seniors. Therefore, ensure that your parents are up to date with these vaccines. The message of this video is not to avoid vaccines. The message is to choose the right vaccines. I want to conclude with something personal. My parents mean everything to me. They sacrificed immensely for me to become the doctor I am today. Every medical decision I help them with, I treat as if their lives depend on it because, in some cases, they truly do. I treat your parents with the same respect. Every patient who has sat across from me in a medical consultation has been considered in the same way I think of my own family. What would I want for my mother in this situation? What would I recommend for my father? That is the perspective from which I made this video. These are not hypothetical recommendations. They are real conversations I have had with my own parents in our kitchen, sitting at our own table, and now I am sharing them with you. If this video helped you, if it gave you something to think about, if it motivated you to talk with your parents or their doctor, I ask you to take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and, most importantly, share it. Share it on Facebook so your uncles or relatives can see it. Send it as a message to your siblings. Send it directly to your parents. Information like this has the power to protect people, but only if it reaches them. And you have the power to make that happen right now. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for trusting me with your time. I appreciate you, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves and look after the people you love. They need you, even if they never say it out loud.